We've got portal superlatives with a great guest, best player, highest upside, best long-term bet, safest floor, and much, much more. Today's Locked On Badgers. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Ryan Harings. Thank you for helping make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network in the country. That's amazing. It's a big credit to everybody in the community. So thank you for doing that. Today's episode, we got some hoops chatter, your questions, portal talk, portal superlatives. And man, I say this all the time when you get great guests on, like Nick Osen, 247 Sports. We don't waste any time. We get him right on. As he said in the chat, let's go. We are rolling with this. If you're in the comments, let us know as we do these superlatives who you have for these different categories. If you have any questions, we'll try to get to everything we can get to. Nick, I was talking before the show with you. It's been a month since we did a collab here.
Dude, it's way too long, but you know what? I mean, I can't hide the smile, obviously. I've been looking forward to doing this. We'll get to do a show, get some time to chop it up here in person in the near future. We've got some great, like you said, questions already rolling in. Got to wrap up the portal. Obviously, 33, 34 plus editions. A lot of fun to talk about, my man.
Yeah, I can't wait to get into it, and we're not going to waste any time. We have superlatives coming up. But first, this is a question a couple people asked me, and I kind of shelved it a little bit because I knew you'd be coming up. And I got the question is just, did they do enough? And was it possible? Can anybody do enough in the portal era?
Yeah. So, Ryan, I think it's a fair question for like most any program, like you said, but I don't think that you can just quantify it as, hey, this is enough right now, and you'll just kind of see what happens. But in terms of filling up the holes, right, sheer quantity, obviously they were very aggressive. I think that they certainly were aggressive, NIL-wise as well, with a lot of guys they had to be. I would say that, without kind of jumping the gun too much, look, I think it's a really good portal haul. I think that they hit on, I remember every week, every day we were having updates, right? We said, okay, you'd love to see one more D-line, right? One more edge, maybe another receiver. And then they still added a couple more after that. So I know that, people were like questioning when the Deuce Adams signing would become official, right? Or, waiting for one more edge, and you could continue to go down the line. But Ryan, I think top to bottom, this roster, at least on paper, okay, we're not going out and just making huge predictions yet, but on paper, I don't see a lot of holes. Now, there are going to be competitions, and not every single player, obviously, that they pulled in is, guaranteed starter or has even necessarily had a ton of production at times. I think that's very honest to say, but in sheer talent, look, I think that first week especially, they hit a few home runs. And I think that's why it was kind of so exciting. As a reporter, there was always news. I know the staff was feeling great about things. And hey, we're about 5-6 weeks away from seeing these guys practice, Ryan.
Dude, I cannot wait for that. I think you answered that really well. I almost look at the portal kind of like a very short abbreviated fishing window, right? And you go out there and you catch a couple pikes, a really nice muskie, maybe some bass. You always want to get one or two more fish before you head in with the boat, right? There's always one or two more fish that I could have got one more. But I think they got a lot of Plan A guys. They landed a lot of their targets. They filled a lot of needs. I can't wait feeling impressed. And I was a little dubious. You gotta prove it. You gotta show it. I think they showed that they were able to get a lot of their Plan A targets in and logistically clear them and get them to sign. I think there's a lot of work kind of in there that people don't understand or always see.
Yeah, Ryan, you said it super well. I mean, as always, man, our great chemistry here. I feel like, look, one of the superlatives is like an unanswered question or a portal loss we'll get into, right? Obviously, there are a couple guys that they wanted, they had on campus, didn't get, but for the most part, I just distinctly remember. What about my beard, Doc? Distinctly remember that first 3 or 4 days. I couldn't, even if I wasn't reporting something, I couldn't take my eyes off the site and Twitter just because it was like so fun. There was always news really popping off. I think that offensively, especially as we just give some general takes before, getting into some of those, like QB, obviously, running back, the whole room is revamped. And a couple of my favorite additions are in there. I think that there are going to be some big time, really big time competitions within some of the O-line spots, receivers pretty open. So we're going to see, man. I'm certainly excited.
Well, let's get into some of those portal superlatives. So we'll start here. We'll go back and forth. The first one is kind of maybe the simplest one to ask. Who do you think the best player they got is? Not necessarily the most important, because there is a distinction there. Who do you think the best player they got in the portal is?
Yeah, it's tough just because I do think that they got so many impact players, but I will also balance that a little bit with just how needed he was, right? The position. So I'm going to go with Colton Joseph. I think he's a name that obviously you and I had on our radars for a long time. One of the best dual threats in the country. It will take some adjustment maybe at times, consistently in the Big Ten, but nobody will forget kind of that first play of this past season against the champs. Obviously, he showed his legs within Big Ten play. So I think there are a few there, Ryan. That was kind of the first one that came to mind. And for mine, Ryan, I will try not to repeat a name either.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same. I have multiple for some of these guys. So Colton Joseph, I think, makes a ton of sense. I'm going to go Marvin Burks here. I'm going to go Marvin Burks Jr., the safety, SEC guy, just big, rangy athlete, right? That has played multiple years. He's been productive. I think he can play in the box, but I also think he can cover. I think he can take a big tight end away. Schematically, I think this is a piece Tressel can use in a lot of different ways. And he's just an adult in the room. He's a veteran, experienced, good athlete that's played SEC ball. I think it's a tremendous get. I would have gone Colton Joseph if you didn't take him, but I had Colton and Marvin written down. So I'm going to go Marvin Burks Jr. Let's go with the safety.
Dude, that's a great pick. I mean, legitimately, when I heard some buzz percolating about him visiting, I tried to tease the readers a little bit. Hey, this is a big one coming.
Yeah.
So, yeah, great pick.
He's a guy Missouri didn't want to lose, and they were a little surprised that they did.
Yeah, they expected to have him back. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's get to the next one. I'll take this one first. Safest or highest floor? I'm going to start with this one. I'm going to say Jake Anderson. I'm going to say the defensive lineman coming in, 6'5", about 305. You did a really good job reporting on him. He's a guy who's already played playoff football. He's played a ton of reps in his life. He's physically mature. I think he's your Ben Barton replacement. I think he's a guy who you come in, you plug him in the middle, he stuffs up the run, he doesn't get moved, he plays really hard, he understands how to do this at this level. Maybe not this level, but he's played at the highest levels where he's played. I think it's a plug and play fit. Jake Anderson, I'm going safest floor.
So, I'm always smiling on your show. It was a little extra there, Ryan, because I have him for another one. I love the breakdown. Interesting one from our guy right there. That's another name I've got coming up, Abu Sama. But for highest floor, this one came to me pretty quick. And I actually thought you might have had it too, Harings. I think it's Austin Kowecki, because he is somebody that, you look through this group, right? There's kind of three different ranges. There's basically, you expect them to start. They've shown some flashes. We'll see how they can be in the mix. And then maybe it's a long-term play. Kowecki has produced at this level. Actually, a lot of my colleagues, some of the top scouting folks, thought he was one of the best interior linemen available. So I was able to watch, obviously, some of his tape, not everything as you're kind of scouring through things, but I think he's somebody many of us expect to start. Obviously has started for a long time. Some good tape, graded out well in PFF. That was my pick at a position that obviously they're looking for some consistency, right? There's some great young talent. Renfro was a good player, but obviously was unfortunately hurt at times. I think Heinzen put in some good work late, but you're looking for Kowecki. I think he's going to build well with Mateos.
Yeah, that's a really good one. And you talk about a tough position to find in the portal. You get a veteran starting center. That's like going to the Quick Trip and finding something that doesn't taste good. It's just hard to find that, and right, it's just difficult. All right, let's go here.
I love that.
Most likely to be an instant fan favorite.
Yeah, this one was, again, really quick for me. There's a little bias here as just familiarity with reporting. I've covered this player since he was 16 in his recruitment. When I was down in Des Moines and in Ames, running back Abu Sama. I think that he is on paper one of their best additions. Again, you talk about production. And he was part of a really good 1-2 punch. I'd probably say a top 15, 20 1-2 punch, I would say, with Carson Hansen. From my understanding, they both had spots at Penn State if wanted. He liked the staff and everything, but Hansen went there. Sama's going to get a chance to shine, and I think a really, really good room. Somebody that, I know from covering even the portal recruitment a little bit, Ryan, they're excited about really this scheme. I think they liked the kind of basis of, really some of the O-line room. Obviously, they brought in some additions, and just being able to run behind some of those guys in an offense that is going to run a lot, I think it's a really good spot for Sama.
So we're going to try not to repeat too many names, but that's who I had for my fan favorite too. So, written down, we're not copying off each other's tests, I promise. I just think fans are going to love his style. Between the tackles, but north-south, he's kind of explosive. He's built well. He'll break tackles. He's just the type of guy that I think Big Ten fans, Wisconsin fans are really going to resonate with. I think he's kind of what we were hoping Dylan Jones would turn into a little bit of, to be completely honest.
And that he showed some of finally, kind of that back end of the year. But yeah, you're exactly right.
Yep. And, a couple people in chat, a lot of things in the chat as well. But Will Hanna says he's a bit smaller. Corey Clement with more juice. Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a really good comp, actually.
Will's
always active with you, man. I like Will Hanna.
Zach Bart says instant fan favorite is Colton Joseph. Listen, it's really easy if your quarterback one is healthy and good. That is probably going to be your fan favorite.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take a second here. We're going to come back. We have a bunch more to get into, more superlatives, plus your questions, thoughts. Nick and I are going to talk on some hoops as well. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. First, a quick second for our friends of the show. Quick second to say thank you for tuning in to Locked On Badgers. Today's episode brought to you by our great friends coming back, Mazda. This is Mazda's moving the game forward. For those who show there's more to the score and there's more than what's just on the screen. Listen, it wasn't the best game yesterday, but moving the game forward, you got to go. Or on Sunday, I apologize, but you got to go with Nick Boyd. Nick Boyd was absolutely tenacious. He was on points. He was doing everything he could to will the Badgers to a victory against that USC team. And without him on the floor, that game would have been a lot worse. So Nick Boyd was definitely dialing in every single detail and giving it that little extra fire, that little extra grit, that little I never quit. Mazda puts the same passion into every single model that they have. They make the highlight reels, and what it takes to get there, they make it count. There's more to every Mazda because there's more to you. Mazda, move and be moved. All right, let's come back in with Nick. Nick, as always, man, I want to give you an opportunity to talk about all the awesome stuff you guys are cooking up over on 247.
Ryan, I appreciate you, and I can already tell, man, this is going to be one of our classic shows because we still got a lot more superlatives. But
yeah, we do.
Honestly, things have been I would say have not slowed down since December 26th, and I'm really happy about it. It's a way I like to live. We celebrated some birthdays, but otherwise, between portal and hoops recruiting and obviously all these new offers flying out, I mean, the content has been flowing, guys. I've got a mailbag coming soon with a lot of questions, but appreciate you, Ryan, and appreciate so many of our, kind of mutual listeners and readers as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap in the communities, which I think is phenomenal. Badger Maniac says, always enjoy the show, gents. And I always say this, I'm a 247 member. Like, I love what they do, and not just Nick, although Nick's so incredible, but Payne and Johnny as well. It's really good stuff. And I always say this, it's not hyperbole. Go support good people doing good things. And that's in all things in life. Like, if you find a great deli shop that makes great sandwiches, go support them too. Go support good people doing good things. That's definitely Nick Osen. I think, Nick, you know this person, V Squared.
Yes, I do. Appreciate that.
All right, let's get into some more superlatives here. Again, these shows.
That's the fiance showing love right there. Thank you.
Yep, these shows are great, and they have they run the risk of running long because we just get rolling. So I always want to be respectful the next time.
It'll be a long one tonight. No worries.
Yeah. You tell me, like, give me a double blink when you're getting to the point of like exhaustion. Highest ceiling. Who is the high? So this might be a guy that we don't see this year at all, but who's the highest ceiling if it all clicks?
Yeah. So I think there are two of them. I'm going to give two names, and I'm only going to try to do that for two, even though it's a huge class. So I take this very literally, like you just said, right? You might not see this player, and I'm not saying this happens, but you might not see this player this year. It's kind of similar to another one that we have. It could be a long term. Okay, taking very literally, I'll give one that you are going to see, and we know he's really good, and they had to be, aggressive to land him, and you'll see him in a big role. That's Bryce West. Obviously a big-time DB from Ohio State. But then I'm going to give one that is, obviously Zach and I always on the same page, man. Measurables, speed, I think he's actually really coalesced with the staff well so far too, including on the visit. Wideout Malachi Coleman. If he hits, there's no question that he has among the highest ceilings because what do I always say? What did I write? And I'm sure the staff feels the same too. You can't teach, Ryan. You can't teach 6'5", 205, and I think it was like I believe at the time low to mid like 4.3, 4.4 type speed in high school. I mean, freaky stuff. Obviously, Nebraska kid, little time at Minnesota, overlap with Jaden Everett, who, from my understanding, had some great things to say about him. So we will see. But that would be just straight ceiling my pick, Ryan.
Yeah, that's where I went too. But I have another one. Listen, he's a creative player. Malachi Coleman is a creative player. He's 6'5" and he runs like a deer running from a wolf. Like he's incredibly fast, athletic. You just don't get people like him. He's who I wrote down first. Let me give you another one though. Cai Bates. I really like. I think he can play everywhere. I think he's a guy who could be a safety for you. In fact, that's kind of sneakily where I hope he ends up fitting because he's 6'1", 6'2". He's rangy. He's tough as hell. I don't know if you heard this story. I had Brian Smith on who knew him in high school a little bit. Brian Smith said he cut off a part of his finger so he can go back in a game in high school. Like he Ronnie Lott. He did the Ronnie Lott. Like, so I think he's wired a little differently.
Wow.
Super athletic, high pedigree kid, and you don't get
offers from everywhere.
Everybody. So I'm going to go with him. I love the Coleman one, though. That's what I wrote down first, but I'm going to highlight Cai Bates there. This one's a play on the last one. So best long-term bet.
Mm-hmm.
And what I want to do with this one is marry up who has the highest upside with who has the best chance of hitting that upside.
Yeah, man, dude, these are great. I mean that. So to me, I'm going to go here, and that's a good comment right there as well. But best long-term bet, give me, again, one of two high ceiling plays, John Kamara at linebacker, or one of the latest additions, he might have been, like second to last, DeNigel Cooper from Appalachian State. From my understanding, they think really, really highly of him. Some big schools were trying to get in the mix late. I think he's somebody that you can shift inside or outside, but I think he's going to be a little bit more interior. That'd be my pick, though, and I think that's going to be the last one I give two names. I'm going to do my best, but your superlatives are great, man, for real.
Well, it's hard to go and give one name for some of these. This is where actually I pivoted to Bryce West. So a lot of that upside that we talked about, but I think he's a little further along from a technical standpoint. Really does a lot of those little things well. When you go back and talk to people who've seen him play, who saw him play in high school, I think that's a guy who has a pretty good chance of probably playing early, to be honest, but also hitting his relatively high ceiling. So I'm going to go Bryce West for best long.
Yeah, that's a great pick.
Something that you talked about as well a ton. I like this one here. Most under the radar steal, like somebody that maybe we're just not talking about enough. I went Nate Palmer on this one. I'm
laughing. You know I'm laughing because
that's great. I love how aligned we are on some of these. I just look at the body type. I look at his ability to catch the ball in the backfield. I look at the offer list coming out of high school. I think that's a guy who could sneak his way into a lot of production I shouldn't say sneak, but could burst his way into a lot of production for Wisconsin. I'm going Nate Palmer, the TCU running back.
No, I agree. I love what you said about the body type. Love the comment from our guy, man, Doc, very twitchy. For me, this is somebody I'm almost shocked, my friend, that we haven't said his name yet, because I believe that pound for pound, he will end up as one of the best players really in this whole group long term. And that's Eric Fletcher. He's somebody that, again, has had production at a young age. Boom, great comment, has some of those measurables. I mean, I mentioned O-line, and I will talk about corners in just terms of competition with so many new faces, while still some really good names coming back. Like, I'm excited. I mean, I think you're going to see, Ryan, some form of, Fletcher out there. West, obviously Robinson from ASU is not coming to not play. You talked about Bates, Skanes. I think some of those guys get some chances at safety personally, but I mean, that secondary is going to go from at the beginning of the portal, like, whoa, who's going to kind of be here, to, wow, almost talent overload, I believe.
Yeah, Fletcher's a really good one. I had a couple of people talking.
That's one of my favorite ads, man.
Yeah, Fletcher, the body type is really good. And I love Robinson. I haven't talked about him yet, but you're talking about a guy who started a couple years, and he's coming in with he's another one. I'll tell you this really quick, because we could talk forever probably just on the secondary. He's another one that's just an adult in the room for me. Like Burks, Robinson, you need a couple guys that are just adults in the room and aren't going to get confused and know what to do. I think they crushed it at DB, quite frankly.
No, 100%. I mean, several plan A guys too, and these aren't guys that, oh, there's not really competition for these guys or they weren't going to play. Like, really, really nice. So I agree, man.
Let's go to this one. Best retention win. Because it's not
So
just
I'm
about
gonna,
players, it's about keeping them.
yeah, and I'm not going to. So this is just, I just want to make sure, Ryan, doesn't have to be somebody that was in the portal or anything like that, right?
100%
Just
correct.
anybody. Okay, anybody back. I'm too diplomatic with this stuff, but I've got like a few names I'm just gonna tie together. So not gonna mention Hilton just because, I mean, on paper that could be obvious because he was, in the portal, but just focusing on guys that maybe didn't do that or weren't thought about. I'll give two obvious ones that were done right away. We reported on it, Posa and Catalano. And then on offense, Kevin Haywood. I mean, obviously there's going to be, chances for a lot of these guys to really carve out names in a almost brand new offensive line. And I think obviously he's finally healthy. We've reported on that, some of his potential. Just seeing this mix of guys that were so highly recruited and back, plus all these transfers, it's going to be fun. If anything, it's going to be very intriguing to see the mix of all these guys as well.
I don't have a ton to go outside of who you named. Obviously, Hilton's a big get. I will highlight the linebackers, specifically Posa, and not that he's better than Coop, but Coop's an in-state kid. There's just a little bit more gravity for in-state kids to stay in state. Posa could have gone just about anywhere in the portal. And I don't, just because it happened without a lot of drama, it happened without a lot of stress. I don't want to understate how competitive it still needs to be to keep your best players
The
coming
top
off,
guys, yeah.
coming off a bad season. People were calling and people were interested. Hanging on to those pieces is a massive win for Wisconsin. We got two more quick here. Biggest remaining question.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with, actually, I'm going to take this a little bit differently.
Mhm.
Not in terms of necessarily this was a hole or this was a position they needed to fill, but more so, Ryan, this is the roster. What happens next? So I'm going to say, who is the number 2 QB when September comes around? I think there's obviously a name that many would expect that has been in the system. That's Carter Smith, who did some phenomenal things with his opportunities. Obviously, there's going to be some competition potentially with Adams there, been in the game a little bit. And then there's competition in so many spots. I think it's just going to be, for me, let's say if you're including like an inside corner, a slot corner, who are going to be those first three that you see? Because I think that one or two names I mentioned, Ryan, are going to get chances at safety, but not everybody can do both. So I think that position, Haynes, Steeples, Cooper, I think they're going to have some fun and some good battles back there.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you coming out of this next break, which positional battles you're most intrigued to see when you get to Platteville, whether it's receiver, corner, O-line, D-line, safety. Can't wait for that. Like, that's going to be a heck of a
Dude, those are a couple of our favorite weeks of the year.
Dude, I love that. I love that week we get to hang out down there. I think for me, I would have loved to have had a receiver coming in with more proven production. Another one at kind of at this level. I would have loved that. I know you added a lot. Listen, they added a ton of intriguing bodies, and you got a couple freshmen coming in that I like. I would have loved just to have somebody I could pencil in on the whiteboard and say, I know for a fact he caught 50 balls in the Big 12 or wherever. And listen, the staff was in on a couple guys, but
yeah, not to make excuses or anything like that. But man, if you ask me, Ryan, between Christmas and mid-January, dude, what is the position that you were kind of most surprised about, like what they can go for in the portal? It might be like a legitimate number 1 starting type receiver. That or like a rangy corner. I mean, a lot of money going for those guys.
Yeah, no, I've heard as well. I mean, there was this. You're creeping past $1 million easy for those type of spots, and for guys who don't have a lot of production. By the way, people would be shocked at how much some of those dudes got. Last question here, man. Who's the toughest portal loss for you?
Yeah, Ryan. So my mind is moving a million miles an hour. I didn't know if you meant here who they were going for but did not get, or who they lost to the portal from the Badgers.
That's a great question. I wrote it as which Badger leaving hurt
Okay.
you most, or would you would have loved to have seen stayed?
Yeah, I'll take it two ways. I think that someone I would have loved to see stay just because of the flashes, because I think he fits the system, getting to know him from his recruitment would be Emilio Agard. But we just talked about kind of a lot of the new additions, the battles. So just sheerly, who would you love to have seen stay and play ball for this group? Probably Christian Allegro, just because, obviously you've got a couple young stars at linebacker, but just to also be able to have him, he's a guy that, we talked about, reported the staff would have loved to have had back.
Mhm.
Obviously is going to a really good program too. So I'll be intrigued to see how he does with the Buckeyes. If Wisconsin didn't maybe bring in some of these guys at running back, like I thought about Dylan Jones. Obviously, he ended up at another good program and showed some flashes certainly throughout his time. But yeah, if I had to pick one, probably CA.
Yeah, CA's would have been incredible depth, and he would have worked in different spots, and he still would have been on the field. I went Brunner, and I get why people are a little down on Brunner. This offense line wasn't good, and I at points in this season was a little down on Joe Brunner. But I also think when your center play is consistently inconsistent, right, for a lot of reasons, and your tackles are flip flopping, I think it's hard to have a really good guard season when everything around you is kind of in chaos. I think solid player. I bet he's going to go to Indiana and play really well. Don't blame him at all. I would have liked to have had a veteran, established, multi-year starter back. That's healthy, by the way. So to me, losing Brunner kind of stings. It also just kind of stings because he's a Wisconsin guy. Like that's a fabric of the culture type of kid, and he's a great kid. You and I both had a chance to talk to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is, and again, a good player. It's funny, I ran into him, just a couple weeks before the portal. Loved, obviously, getting to know him here. I do think he'll be, I would have said a good player wherever he goes. Obviously, in a spot where the offensive line has been relied upon a lot there as well. So that'll be interesting. Great comment from Will again, because I think that Nick Clayton is a future pro as well.
Dude, I love Clayton. I can't wait to see him unleash this year, hopefully. All right, one more quick second. We'll come back, talk a little hoops, take a couple of your final questions. Anything else that Nick wanted to hit on? That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break for our friends of the show. A quick second, as always, to say thank you for tuning into Locked On Badgers. Thank you for being a part of this community. Thank you for being who you are. I can't tell you how much I appreciate everybody being here. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's last call. It is last call for football on FanDuel. One last kickoff, the final chance to get in and all the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60. It's coming up. FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of the action with a special offer in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, the underdog, or building one last same game parlay to wrap it all up. This is the game everybody's been waiting for, where you turn predictions into plays, stats into storylines, and every snap feels just a little bit bigger. Perfect way to cap up the season. If you're a new customer, you can bet $5 and you get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season's over. We're in that long, dark abyss before football starts again. Last call for football on FanDuel, the official sports book partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, Nick, let's talk a little hoops. We did a ton of portal. Anything else? Actually, let me ask you this. What should I have asked you? What else should I have asked you about the portal that I didn't, or that you wanted to bring up as we wrap up football portal?
I mean, man, you hit on a ton of them. I think if I could just have a space, I mean, again, 30 plus names. So I didn't want to leave anyone out in that sense. I just want to say the one that I thought for long-term bet / under the radar, I think Carson Van Dinter is going to have a shot here. He got opportunities at Iowa State, Wisconsin kid, a lot of Fox Valley stars within this group. So that's going to be fun. And then, man, I'm actually kind of shocked that this name didn't come up for either of us. And I'm going to cover our backs here, because he's going to be one of the better players from this group. I have pretty high faith on that. Junior Poyser.
Yeah.
You talk about an impact guy at a spot that we know these fans love and you need. And frankly, that group was phenomenal last year on the D line. So I think it's going to be a mix of guys coming back. I want to see some of those young guys continue to at least battle for chances. I believe they're capable. I know we both are high on Exuponu long term.
Yep.
But yeah, I have to make sure, we probably hit 22, 23 of those names, but he's one. Frankly, I think he'll get starting type reps. I say starting because we know they're going to want to rotate in the IDL.
Yeah, I mean, we talked for 30 minutes, and I feel like there's 5 bodies we still should have talked about more or brought up. So, no, Poyser's a great add on there. 5.5 sacks from the interior. That's rare.
Yeah.
It's rare to get disruption on the inside. Let me hit some of these questions quick. This is from Smo. So, this weekend, coming up, Friday, Nick's going to be there. I'm going to be there. We're having our Locked On event. We'll put all that information, the schedule out on Twitter. It's on our Discord as well. Nick is going to show up on Friday for a while. It's going to be a ton of fun. So highly encourage there's a lot of overlap in our communities, and there's also people on both sides of it. Encourage everybody to come out. It's free. We're going to hang out. We're going to watch men's hockey, I think, drink beer, eat wings, talk Badgers. Nick, from Smo, what is going to be your first beverage of choice?
Yeah, Smo, quite honestly, I mean, my people know, the group knows, and certainly the board. I don't drink too often. I don't have the time. I have other activities, but this is going to be a night I'm going to relax, enjoy a little bit. One of my best friends right here, a bunch of people that, help support. So what do they say? Do they say to drink the hard stuff first or after? I don't remember. I think it's first. So,
Okay.
And then you kind of slow down. So I would probably go with vodka Red Bull first. I think we're going to have a little bit of a night. And take care of business throughout the week and enjoy a few hours with the gang.
Dude, I love it. And I hope to see everybody there safely if possible. Really, really do hope for that. East King, who are your starting receivers for next year?
Ooh.
This is a great question from East King.
It is. It's so tough. Just thinking about, frankly, how do guys show up in the competition, right? What are they prioritizing? Obviously, the best players, but how are you going to kind of mix guys that have been in the system with guys that are flashing throughout? So I'm going to give probably 4 names. I know you're not often going to see that, but I think that you do see, I think Chris Brooks is very highly thought of within the program. He's stuck around. He's consistent, not necessarily the big play threat, but he has that skill set that maybe nobody else does with some of just being around strength blocking. So I think he's got pretty good shot to at least be in that top rotation. I think Eugene Hilton's going to earn a pretty nice spot. Yeah, I'm just going to probably give 4. I think Shamar Rigby has a chance. And then somebody, I'm not sure because it's so hard to kind of determine, right? Especially some of these guys that you maybe haven't seen as much, but just from having sources connected, whether in the program or frankly within some of these commitments. Ryan, I think Kearney with his speed, I'll say, I think you're going to see someone that maybe hasn't shown it as much, but has some of the speed or measurables, like a Coleman. Both of those guys can blaze. But for my understanding, Kearney's going to get his shot. So I think those are probably the 4 I'll say right now.
Yeah, I like where you went there. I think Kearney gives you vertical speed and some pedigree there. Brooks is interesting. Who do you think is the slot guy? I kind of wonder if that's a spot where you can put Eugene Hilton. You can slide him on the inside. I think he has versatility to play there.
Well, he can play both. Look, I think that he and, frankly, it's funny because some of your fastest guys are also some of your tallest and maybe best outside threats, like a Coleman. I think Hilton can do both. I'm not sure I would put him there, primarily. I still love him kind of in space and on the outside. Don't be shocked to see one of the 2 young freshmen get a chance to at least compete with kind of some of what they have shown in high school, as well as just their speed. I know a name I've talked about with you. I talked about with our guys, Justin and Rajiv. I'm not penciling in these guys as starters, but just in terms of sheer catch the ball, kind of a possession guy and then make plays in space. I love Keyshawn Tabato and his abilities. I think that's how they see Kearney a little bit from, again, speaking with people close to him. That's not just coming from the program. So That's wide open. I mean, dude, that spot is nearly wide open. And it's one that you can generally see when we get opportunities with practices like, hey, how are these guys balling out? It's not one that I don't think you have to get as much into the intricacies because obviously catching the rock is part of it. So that's what I expect. I guess I'd be shocked if at least one of those two returners, I mean, there are multiple, right, with Tyrell Henry in the mix as well, but at least not seeing one or two of those guys. But I mean, they didn't bring in this many transfer wideouts to not have chances to.
That's going to be one of those spots, man. Let me hit you with this quickly. What spot are you most excited to see in Platteville from a competition standpoint?
Oh,
so I'll give you mine really quick. To me, and this could go in a lot of directions. I'm stoked to see the DBs. I'm stoked to see the receivers. I can't wait to see the offensive line. I can't wait to see who the tackle is. Where are some of those young studs that we loved? I mean, we love Powell, Watts. Where's Cub going to be? Where's Corey going to be? Mandel, guard, tackle. Some of those new portal guys. Dude, I'm fascinated to see.
No, that's the spot.
Yes,
for sure. You're exactly right. Like, it's not the, outside, shiny, catching the rock, scoring, interceptions, but I am too, because people also don't talk about, it's obviously a whole new O-line coach coming in too. So like everything is almost this blank slate. I'm really intrigued. I don't think, like you said, you just named them, but like a couple of those guys you said, Simmons, PJ Wilkins, of course everybody wants to play, but there's going to be, I think, 7 or 8 that have to separate themselves from the rest, dude. It's going to be really intriguing.
I love this coming from Steve Kneebone because this is the guy. I like Zion LeGray. I love how he's built. I think he's a natural slot. You mentioned Thibodeau. I think LeGray might be that guy that could, in a year, be your slot too. Just the way he's built and the way they use him in high school. He's another guy I really like. Dude, let's talk hoops really quick. We're at 36 minutes. I want to make sure we have a couple more questions, but I want to make sure we touch on hoops at least a little bit here. Badgers coming off that USC loss, but prior to that, they were on a heater. Obviously, the Michigan win, and then continuing that on. Thoughts right now, a day off of that USC loss, but overall, a successful last couple weeks for the Badgers.
Yeah, without question. I loved the end of Guard's presser. I think it was the exact last question, but somebody asked something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but Guard ended it with, it's been a while since I had a somber locker room post game because they were absolutely rolling. And that was a tough loss, obviously in the way that it happened. If that hurts you, maybe you look back at the Michigan win. Okay, that's one that obviously wasn't expected going in for many. So those kind of maybe balance each other out. Look, just looking forward, I mean, people are saying college basketball is in the best spot it's been. Not talking about all the stuff that happens off season, but sheer talent levels, Ryan, competition. I mean, if this group, which has one of the, not saying the best, there's some really good ones, but one of the better top 3 trios, you could say, in the conference and in the country, if they're looked at as like an 8 or 9 seed right now, I mean, the competition is unbelievable. So I would say I'm far from hitting the panic button. I think that they've found themselves and their identity throughout this month. I think that loss really only hurt so badly and appeared bad, right? Just because it seemed like they had the game set. We were spot on from July or August that you would love to have another post guy you can rely on or a rim protector. But overall, Ryan, if you can win 3 out of the next 4, so that would put you at, I think, 9 and 4 in the Big Ten or so, you're in a really nice spot. If you get to that 10 number, you're making the tournament. This team's going to make the tournament. I'm just curious about, as I've said, I still think the same about the ceiling that I mentioned preseason, but where's that floor? And when they're defending, the floor is very high.
Yeah. Who is the X factor down the stretch for you? Like, who is the guy?
Carrington.
Is it BC?
Carrington, for sure, because I think there's really only, 2 answers most would go with. I think that would be Carrington or Rhodey, because obviously that top 3, those are kind of your stars. I think there are 3 stars on this team in Boyd, Blackwell, and Winter. I could see somebody picking AB, but I think he's fairly consistent in his role. He's not going to score the 20 and 9 boards, some of what he's shown at Michigan and things of that nature. But I mean, Carrington, and when he is on, like this team is truly different. They have a legit top, probably 7 or so that you could say maybe you could count on as starters. and I think he takes them up a level on both ends.
Mehmet, by the way, says thank you, Nick. I don't get every comment in here thanking Nick for coming on the show, but I try to hit a couple of them. I almost want to say, so I like Carrington. I have Carrington more, to me, penciled into something I feel better about. He's not in Sharpie, but he's in like really thick pencil, kind of pencil. I think Rap to me is almost my X factor. And I think it's because you can tell Guard wants him to take a bigger role. Guard made a couple threes in the game against USC, and Guard kind of gave him a longer leash. You can tell because of the lack of depth on the front court of this team, because of what he was supposed to be when he came in, because of the struggles that AB still has at times. I think if you can just get a version of Austin Rep that's consistent for 15 minutes off a game off the bench, I think it would be massive for this team. I guess I'm pivoting because I feel more sure on BC now than I did at the beginning of the season.
On what his role is. Yeah. And Rap, I mean, I thought he played pretty well. Like, even though he has scored more at times, like, I thought what he did around the paint and some of kind of his defensive energy, pretty good. I mean, frankly, I thought that the team played really good basketball for like 31, 32 minutes. As we know, that has to be closer to 38 to 40 for them to keep going. But I expect them to take care of business against Minnesota. And then you're going to have you're going to be there. A lot of our friends here will. A nice Saturday game, because that roster is pretty good for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, Ohio State's, that's not a walkover. And if they lose another Locked On meetup event, buddy, every meetup event we've been to, they've lost. So we got to break the streak. Nick, man, we're at 41 minutes. Anything else that you wanted to hit on the way out the door? I'll let you close this out.
No, I appreciate that. I actually think I kind of hit on it. I mean, a lot of people from your amazing show have joined. I'm excited about the meetup. After this, guys, it just kind of shows what we're about. My fiance, very supportive with jumping in on here. I'm still going to get a fresh recruiting update for folks to wake up to. Then we've got one of the favorite columns, The Pulse, coming out in the next day or so. Ryan, I do. Yeah, you're right. It's getting to that time. Got to take out my contacts, but give me one more question, man, because this has been super fun.
We have plenty. I actually really like this question, and I saved it. We didn't get to everything on the Discord, which I apologize for, but we'll try to loop back with some of these with Nick and myself.
And we're never going to go, I don't think, ever a month without doing a show together.
That was long, but listen, it was in the middle of the portal, and you guys were
made sense. Yeah, and I made that appearance with you guys on the Christmas giveaway too.
Yep. Tori asks, how do you get 30 new bodies to gel in the next 7 months? I think this is a really valid question. It's
a good question,
right? Because there's new coaches.
Yeah, so. First of all, I think it's 49 new bodies, I believe, when you factor in the freshmen too.
Yeah,
48, 49. Amazing question, Tori. I actually feel like I got a pretty good answer for you. I think it's more challenging for a coach, and that's not a fickle answer. That's in general, because you talk about these players, especially in this day and age. Like, if you're playing competitively, you are friends with people that are a year or two older than you. They might graduate in high school before, so you're always making new friends there. You're used to, you're either playing competitive, for hoops like AAU or football training all year. People have kind of separate personal trainers, and they go to fitness centers, and then you're at college, you're meeting new people all the time. So at least I know with my personality, that part's easy for the players. These guys can make friends very easily. But I think for a coach to set that standard, the culture, and hey, this is where we are, and we're not going to kind of, as Coach Guard says, we're not going to change the standard to fit new people coming in. I think that is really important to kind of stabilize. But yeah, great question. This has now hit our longest show, and dude, like, I truly could have gone for another 35 minutes.
Oh, we easily could have done it, but we'll wrap it there. Great questions for everybody. Sorry we didn't get to absolutely everything, but as always, appreciate Nick coming on, taking his time out of his busy day to jump onto the show. Appreciate everybody tuning in the chat, or everyone that's going to watch it later as well. You guys are amazing and awesome, and thank you for that. On Wisconsin, a bunch more content coming up this week, and Locked On, the live meetup event this weekend. Nick will be there, plus Justin, plus Rajiv, plus a bunch of other good people. on Wisconsin, and we will definitely talk to you guys later.